Hey everyone, Mike here with another first Descendant video here on Helm to Tower. We're talking about the first season, which pretty much just launched. It's been out for like not even a day. And I think most people will agree with me that I think, after playing some over this short period, even in this time, they kind of missed the mark with some of this content that was released. There's definitely some good things that came with this update, some quality of life stuff I'll definitely talk about and get some thoughts on. But we already got a dev note from within the 24 hours of this season 1 release from the devs being like, hey, we're sorry, and we already have fixes planned. So I'm gonna kind of read through some of that stuff and then give some general thoughts about season 1 so far. So let's get into it. From the director talking about some updates that are already planned, I'll kind of go through what's been added in the season while also kind of talking about the planned updates they have for them here. But first, I would like to apologize to everyone who had inconvenience since season 1's update. Everyone's support is incredibly appreciated, and our dev team is currently doing our greatest effort to resolve the current issue. Throughout this dev note, we would like to share some countermeasures regarding the invasion dungeons and Haley's farming difficulties. Again, these are always like a little iffy because of the translation from the director, but we'll make it work. So here's a summary of everything they're doing. So again, they're going to be modifying the invasion dungeons in the inversion reinforcement system. These are kind of the first main pieces of content that are introduced with this season 1 update, and they definitely felt both pretty underwhelming. I did not really find the mechanics that you're kind of doing in the dungeons themselves all that interesting mechanic wise and the puzzle wise. And then the inversion reinforcement where we're kind of these like seasonal buffs. Again, I'm Destiny pilled, so think of like the seasonal perks or artifact mods from Destiny 2. These kind of feel similar to that kind of idea, but they're definitely way more underwhelming perks. And on top of them being like underwhelming buffs, overall they all have a lot of penalties to them on top of that. So it's just like, why would I use a lot of these? Because some of them even just straight up have like very counterintuitive debuffs. Like there's one that does sound interesting where it's like, oh, every time I grapple it gives me like a little burst of shield for like a few seconds, and that sounds kind of neat because you do a lot of grappling in the game to begin with. But then it has a penalty where you take more damage while you're in the middle of grappling. So it kind of pretty much counteracts each other entirely, the like mechanic of that particular buff. And that's like a bunch of these are like that, where it's just like weird. It's like, oh yeah, it's a buff, but like there's like a negative that kind of counteracts it, or it's like a buff that like just makes the game like not that fun because it's like, oh, we're giving you this like kind of damage resistance, but we're like reducing your gunfire damage for whatever reason also because you're taking this buff. And it's like, why make me work to get all of these? Why make me do the work to unlock these if they're just gonna negatively impact me, all things considered, and not give me a meaningful buff? So that's a tangent there on that reinforcement. I was just kind of disappointed by that because I like when again, Destiny build, so I like the mod system that Destiny has because it makes it feel impactful every season when it's like, oh, now I'm going to be doing more interesting things with like arc abilities because of the mods that I can equip, and I can make almost like a build around it for the season, and that's like kind of the meta. And that's what I was hoping this inversion stuff would be, and like it doesn't really feel like that at all. It kind of just feels like some really weak buffs. So they have some plans here. I'll go in here to the changes they're making overall, because they're also going to be making a lot of changes to the invasion dungeons as well. The first two we got were not that very fun. One was like kind of really confusing to me. I had to like go watch some streamers and go into communities like to see how people were figuring this out, because it has like pillars and you're shooting these like growths on the pillars that are revealing symbols, and then the symbols match to this like drone that's like flying around, and you have to find the drone with the matching symbols. I made sense of it, but it's not very clear because like the pillars themselves are vertical, but the icons next to the drone are horizontal. So you have to like none of that actually matters, and then you have to look at the actual like these like the tiny super small dots that are on them to know which are the right symbols, and like it doesn't explain that at all in any meaningful capacity. So it just was a lot of weird stuff there, but they're changing that. Here are the changes they're going to be doing. The patterns will be simplified, and arcade pillars without patterns will be deleted because that was a thing too. The direction of the arcade pillars will be adjusted to look toward the battle arena, and the drone pattern will be designed vertically the same way the pillars are, for a better gameplay experience. Tumors that cover the pattern and the ones that block the door will be easier to destroy as well. And tumors, once they're destroyed, will not be generated. So they're talking about the weird little growths on them. So yeah, overall, those are pretty good changes. It'll make that like smoother, I think, overall. Again, I will say, like, I don't think any of these are like hard. It's just that they're like they were like convoluted and not very explained very well, in my opinion, or at all. And I think maybe they wanted players to maybe try and figure them out. And granted, we figured them out, but like that doesn't make them like more fun and interesting to play. So I think these changes might help that a little bit. So we'll have to see. The other one that they talked to basically have these like colored like tiles or like panels that are little plates that you have to like stand on, and they'll be like basically a big, you have to get to the next area, you'll see like a big door, and they'll be like, hey, there's like a red plate, a green plate, and a blue plate. You need to stand on all of those and activate them to open up the path. To see which ones which plates or which color, you have to like grapple up to this little floating plate that's up in the sky in the area, and you can look down and see which ones are which. It's very simple, like memory game thing. I just don't think it's right now in its current iteration. It does not feel. I didn't think it was very fun. It's like it's straightforward, but it's like, okay, one which they mention here, like if you're a colorblind player, it just does not. You probably have a lot of difficulty seeing which colors are which colors, so it doesn't work very well. So they are going to be implementing like symbols that are matched with the colors to make that a little bit easier. Also, I should mention, like, the boss that you fight at the end has like a colored barrier, so you can't even see. Like that's probably like impossible to see for some folks. So that's like adding symbols to that again. That's always how it's got to be with like some colored stuff like that, for folks to more easily recognize and have that, because if they have a colorblind disability or difficulties. So good change there. There are also these pretty annoying enemies, at least I found them annoying. I know people, there's like God mode players out there who can probably blast through this stuff and is whatever, and I know people are doing it, but like as somebody who's like I had scenarios, it was just kind of more annoying. It wasn't difficult, I guess I should rather say, where like you have scenarios where like, oh, I have to go to this green plate, which is on this side, and this purple plate's on the other side of the map, and it's like obscured by, other stuff. And then now all of a sudden this little like, they have like enemies that can turn off the plates, or little bomber guys that will go up and run up and destroy them. And I can just be in a scenario where I'm on the one plate, I can't even see the other plate or defend it because of all the stuff in the way, like just might be like a big ice pillar or something in the way, and I can't do anything about it, so it's just gonna get destroyed and I have to start the whole thing over again. So they're removing those enemies, it seems, largely, and they're simplifying, like taking out less fake plates from arenas and stuff like that as well. They're just simplifying it, making it smoother to just like get through faster. I think that's fine, making them simpler, because again, this kind of goes in line with like a change they made, which was, I think a good quality of life thing, where they took the hard mode infiltration operations and removed some of the like, I guess, like longer to do mechanics or activity things, that modifiers that were in the dungeons, where it's like, oh, you have to like stand in this defend zone and wait for it to fill out, or hack this thing and stand around to like a defend zone for a while. They took a lot of those out of the hard mode infiltration and made for more like run and gun style things, so you can move through them a little bit smoother and faster overall. So it's better to kind of farm these things for items you need. So this is kind of feels like in line with that, where they're just making them a little bit easier to do and more replayable, in my opinion, rather than kind of just being annoying to deal with every single time. So that's good. I think those are solid changes for an update next week. So next week is when we'll see the update to Invasion Dungeons and Inversion Reinforcements. After that, they also have planning to add matchmaking to this Invasion Dungeons as well, so a multiplayer version of that. I think that's totally fine too, because I did not really see the benefit of it being a solo thing, or a solo only thing rather. Like, I don't think there's a problem with having it be so you can do it solo, but like the idea that like, why just not have it be so I could run it with my friends or like matchmake for it. Like, I didn't feel like there was any negative downside to not having that, other than like maybe they're just trying not to have too many people too many matchmaking hoppers across the game to like limit the player sizes and potential other activities or something like that. Maybe that's kind of what they're they're worried about, and I think that's fair, but I still think they should just, it's a seasonal activity, like should have matchmaking in those activities, because there's going to be a lot of people who are kind of current and just want stuff to do and play with other people easily, and that makes sense. Next up, they talk about Haley and her research material. I think this is definitely one of the bigger topics and pain points I think people have with the season overall, is that it is like a major grind to unlock Haley as a free-to-play player mainly. Obviously, it's, you can just buy her outright if you want to, like other Descendants. But if you're a free-to-play player, to grind her out, they kind of changed how it works, where like the materials you need, it's not just like a specific drop or like amorphous material stuff now. It is like you need 36 of these particular like chips, and then that'll let you craft kind of those main components, 4 main components. You need 36 of those for each one. The best way to get them currently is through the daily invasion dungeons, and those are guaranteed to drop from that, which are nice, but it doesn't guarantee which specific ones drop from those. If that makes sense. So like, you might get 3 of the stabilizer chips that you need to craft one part, guaranteed, but it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the other chips you need. So people have done the math, and like in the blog, so actually I'll just read it from the blog here, but it says our dev team wanted everyone, including our users who only have limited time, to finish Haley in 12 days in average. Also, we wanted to better support users who can invest a lot of time to farm Haley through infiltration operations. However, to accommodate opinion that Haley's farming takes too long, we are planning to increase the drop rate for Haley's research materials about 2 times faster. So I guess that's like a little bit of a weird way to put it, but basically, yeah, like just to unlock a single character, your RNG had to be pretty much perfect with the amount of chips you're getting correctly through the daily missions. It would have taken 12 days to unlock her if everything kind of worked out perfectly with your drops. I think that's kind of a lot, especially for a normal, like just like a normal Descendant. She seems pretty good. I've seen already people putting out clips of her like melting bosses and stuff like that. But like I don't even think there's ultimates, like the ultimate characters that they've added to the game, even take 12 days to unlock. So that's kind of like crazy to have just like a normal Descendant that much of a grind for players who want to play for free, or maybe just don't want to buy the Descendant and they want to grind out the Descendants. They might obviously spend money on the game other ways, but they'd rather do the grind to unlock Descendants. I think that's just a little bit too much. So it seems like they're going to be making it 2 times faster. So I'm not sure if that means it'll be like, if 2 times faster makes you think it'll be less than half of the amount of days that you need. And also there is a way to get some of her parts from just doing normal hard infiltration operations. But again, that's also very RNG dependent, whether you get a drop of those or not. So they'll probably be increasing the drops for those across the boards. Again, they didn't give specifics of how they're increasing it, but that'll be a hotfix literally tomorrow. So I think they were bracing and already kind of knew if they had a hotfix ready that quickly. So that's my tinfoil hat theory, is maybe they've been making a lot of community-based feedback already on the game, and I've seen how people have reacted to some other things, and they kind of were like, oh well, now that we're looking at season 1, I don't know about this, y'all. And so they started kind of preparing these updates beforehand. He said that's kind of my hope, and maybe they're not, the devs aren't being crazily overworked, but you never know. Those are kind of the changes they're already addressing for season 1, and I think those are a lot of the major pain points I had. I was pretty disappointed by the inversion reinforcement system. The invasion dungeons I just think are kind of not super fun and not rewarding enough, so they're simplifying those and potentially making them more rewarding depending on how much easier it is to grind out and unlock Haley. I think that's all well and good. I think there's still some other things they could address, like the battle pass. I think the battle pass was still pretty lackluster in my opinion. I think this one still leaves a lot to be desired. Like, they added a little bit more cosmetic items, but I think there needs to be a little bit more. I think like having a little bit more meaningful rewards, like I would add like maybe even just like crafting materials to it, like add some craft materials for catalysts or some other item into that to acquire like later in the pass or something like that. I think that would be welcome. I think that would make it worth it for me, or just put a catalyst entirely in there. I think that could be fine too. Like I think just like better, more worthwhile rewards in those makes sense to me, alongside some of the cosmetic things, which are fine and good. I still think I I'm not a fan of still some of the cosmetic aspects of the game in terms of like the paints being like not fully reusable in a simple way, and like some of the weapon skins are really cool and they look great, but like they're for very specific weapons. So if the weapon's like not that great or interesting, or I don't want to be using it, like what's the point of, you know, that skin then? I'd rather it be then maybe look at maybe doing like a more proper transmog system where you can just make a weapon. I have a tactical rifle and a cool skin variant for this tactical rifle. Just let me use that as that rifle with the stats of whatever weapon that I have. You know what I mean? Transmog would be cool in that regard. I think for ultimate weapons, I'm cool with them having their own unique skins, because right, their ultimate weapon with their unique skills and abilities and things you're progressing and upgrading on them. So just, you know, having a cool skin for those, totally cool. I think that makes sense. But I think for like general weapons, I would just maybe do like a transmog thing and maybe work that. I know it's like maybe a bigger system, but I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be a good thing to do for that, and would make those skins more meaningful, and people would probably be more interested in the battle pass, frankly, and want to spend more money if they knew those skins were going to be like more universal to use. I think that would be cool. But here you go. There's some thoughts about season 1. I think there were some good quality of life things I've mentioned in previous videos, like the void fragment collecting and fusion, doing the fusion reactors. That loop is like way better now, because you can literally just do one of those fragment things and then go right to the fusion reactor if you have the amorphous material, and just do it. You don't have to like, you know, do a bunch of those. It's much easier to acquire the fragments across the board. I also did a special operation because they buffed some XP rates in there and buffed the amount of the void fragments you get from those too. I did a single run where I used a catalyst on my bunny to start leveling her up again, and from the start of I did the Vesper Void Experiment event special operation. I started that at level 1 on bunny and got her to, by the end of it, I was like 22, level 23, and I got like a few hundred of each run of those 38 waves or whatever. Ton of stuff, bunch of XP for character and weapons. XP gains across the board have been pretty nice as well on the game. So, you know, again, there's definitely some good stuff in this season 1 update quality of life wise. I just think a lot of the actual content left a lot to be desired that was added here. So, you know, they're already addressing it. So, you know, hopefully next week, a lot of the stuff will be a lot better with the changes they're making. There might be more changes in the future, I imagine, but, you know, we'll just have to wait and see on those. But for now, guys, those are my thoughts on, you know, season 1 of First Descendant so far. Missed the mark a little bit, but I think there's, you know, I don't think this is, you know, the game is done. They ruined it. Dead. It's dead. It's, you know, I don't think it's that extreme by any measure. You know, they just kind of, you know, missed the mark and are making some changes, and, you know, I'm glad to see it. So, you know, thanks for watching, hanging out for me. Those, you know, let me know what you think about this season 1 update, if you're looking forward to these changes, or if you're liking the season so far, and, you know, what you're thinking down in the comments below if you'd like. But, you know, thanks for hanging out as always, and listen to me ramble about, you know, video games and whatnot, and I'll see you in the next video.